Welcome back. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on News X. In fresh developments coming in from Manipur, Assam Rifles DG Lieutenant General Vikas Lakera has called on the Manipur Governor Ajay Bhalla. The crucial meeting took place at the Raj Bhavan in Imphal. Assam Rifles DG briefed the governor on the operational activities of Assam Rifles and the deployment of Assam Rifles in the state. He's also visited Kangpokpi and Senapati districts with a focus on boosting IT infrastructure and reviewing key schemes like the Jal Jeevan Mission and connecting directly with the local civil society organizations. He's also held a major review meeting with top officials to push the vital state government departments. During the meeting, the governor reviewed the overall budgetary allocations of various vital departments which are directly associated with the people. Meanwhile, people from all communities have started surrendering looted and illegally held weapons. All of this comes days after Governor Ajay Kumar Bhalla had been given a 7-day ultimatum for the return of weapons looted from armories. Some members of the Kuki, Zo and Maitai community deposited firearms to the Assam Rifles and the CRPF in Churchandpur, Kakching and Imphal districts. Additionally, the crackdown against terror continues in the hilly areas and the valley. Security forces have dismantled 2 illegal bunkers in Kangpokpi district. Moreover, security forces have also destroyed illegal poppy cultivation at the Thanglongbung in Kangpokpi district. Well, during this destruction, 4 acres of illicit poppy plants were destroyed. 4 farm huts were also burned down. Lieutenant General Nitin Kohli, defence expert, is joining us live. We also have Major General Sudhakarji, defence analyst, live with us. RVS Mani, former Under Secretary MHA, is joining us live. Professor Madhav Nalapat, editorial director of the Sunday Guardian, is also with us on the broadcast. Let me make a start with you first, Lieutenant General Kohli. This, of course, is a very crucial meeting that has taken place between the DG of Assam Rifles with the Governor of Assam, with the Governor of Manipur, beg your pardon. Also, of course, the additional deployment perhaps of troops would have been discussed, as we believe a new security action plan now has commenced on ground in full earnest after President's rule was imposed a few days ago.
Yes, there is no doubt in this. The governor has set the things in motion and things have started moving in the right direction. But there is a miles to go before things can happen. Firstly, disarming both the communities is a Herculean task. Though the 7 days have been given and Kokomi has asked for a few more days, even if that is also given, it will take a while by the time they can be disarmed. And for this, involving some of their youth or some of the peace committees, if possible, is very, very essential. Otherwise, disarming will become a very difficult exercise. And that will be the kind of prerequisite before any action can take place. You see, before we can think of development or think of destroying their poppy through aerial bombardments and all these things, firstly, they must be disarmed. Otherwise, the clashes can start anytime. And the way these Mirapaibis and the other groups have been coming and resisting the arrest by the army, so they will have to be disarmed. And as well as additional troops, which you said, as it is around 40,000 odd CAPF troops and some army, Assam Rifle, they are there. They will have to be reorganized, which I'm sure must have been done by now. But the troops probably will need for sealing the border. You see, we have this 398 kilometers of border with Myanmar as far as Manipur is concerned. And the fencing has just 30 odd kilometers, 20 kilometers has just finished near More and 10 kilometers was there earlier. So it will take a while, and I have served there, and I'm sure so have others. That's a very, very difficult area for fencing. Thick foliage, rivulets, and all the terrain is very difficult. So more troops will have to be deployed. Somehow we'll have to redefine the way we manage the border. The way we are doing on the western border, probably we'll have to do it like this only here. Only then we can seal the border to the extent possible, so that the illegal arms and the drugs, weapons, etc., they can be stopped. So now they are all out. Synergistically, they are working to create the conditions so that they can be disarmed and they can be brought on the table, so that some kind of agreement or some kind of understanding can be reached to assuage the feeling of both the communities. Because as on today, there is total trust deficit. So it's a difficult task, but it is not impossible. Now, since the unified command kind of thing has been going on, and the DG, Assam Rifle, and I'm sure GOC3 Corps there and others, they must be meeting number of times in a day. And I'm sure this is moving toward the solution. Thank you, Uday.
Okay, let me in fact quickly join Major General Sudhakarji as well onto the broadcast. Major General Sudhakarji, what now should be the priorities? Of course, this is an important meeting. I'm sure the way forward would have been discussed in this meeting. What now needs to be that way forward as we continue this momentum that has been built up within this 7-day deadline period given by the governor to disarm the communities on ground? A lot of communities have surrendered their arms, but still a long ways to go. What should be now the way forward?
Good evening, Uday. Thank you for getting me to your show, and compliments to very distinguished and esteemed panelists and the viewers as well. Very difficult task, but in the preamble, before I respond to your query, let me put things in the perspective. Firstly, identification of a problem to find a solution. The problems are not only the internal ethnic rivalry. The problems are very complex. There is an external component. In the external component, you have the terrorist or the militant outfits operating in Myanmar, and good about 26 of them. So the military junta has got relations with Mai Tai group, and so Kuki, they have their links and relationship across. There is an issue regarding the illegal weapons coming in, issue regarding free flow of narcotics, free movement. Earlier, it used to be good old days, it used to be 40 kilometers. Now I believe it has been reduced to 16, and further it is being stopped gradually with notification and promulgation of orders. Also, there are issues with regard to the visa regulation. We need to adopt some system of people, because you can't close down complete movement across the border. There are kith and kins, there are relations where you cannot actually respond to in a very military manner or in a very objective manner. Human emotions and compassion will play its role. Some of them would be coming for medical, etc., etc. So some permission has to be given. And once they come into India, the time stipulation has to be defined by the law enforcement agency, and they must get back. Next is coming onto the border. Border, like General has already brought out, it's only 30 kilometers. 398 kilometers is not good enough. If you really want to protect, it's a very difficult area, forested area, very tough terrain. I have also done patrolling as a young officer along that terrain. And so maybe from my side, if you, in a stretch of 1646 or 50 kilometers, if you do bordering or erect fencing only for 398, then what happens to the rest? So it is the holistic problem has to be found. Surveillance has to be done. Anti-infiltration also has to be done. So therefore, it brings me to the point. There are some which are short term, some which are medium term, some which are long term actions which are required at different level, tactical, operational, strategic level. So that has to be clearly identified and action has to be taken. Now you come to the internal strife, the problem. The internal problems are not only the ethnic rivalry, which is erupted off and on since 3rd of May 2023. They have a cause and effect phenomena, and cause are bounty, I would say, but mainly, primarily, it is a land problem, to my understanding. So the land problem, it is a long kind of a long-term perspective issue which needs to be analyzed. It has got a constitutional leaning orientation. It has also got orientation to meet the aspiration, because 52% people are living in 10% land, and the remaining population, they have the complete this thing, the land where they cannot be bought by the Mai Tai group, and likewise. So there are lots of differences, employment problem, infrastructure development, also some obligations which need to be addressed in the constitution if the normalcy has to be brought back. So now, where do we stand today? We stand today with, we have just about begun the process of bringing normalcy here. President's rule has started. Governor has taken up things in the earnest. First and foremost thing is that the whole nation has to repose faith and trust in the leadership that who's exercising his mandate. Second thing that comes to my mind is military operations basically have to be joint operation. For successful and effective joint operation, you need to have some kind of a synergy. For synergy, the unified headquarters sitting at Dimapur cannot ensure synergy. So therefore, there will be a requirement to have a TAC headquarters of unified headquarters close to the area of conflict zone. So where is that going to be? It could be at the 57 headquarters or at some Assam Rifle Formation headquarters or wherever the governor feels is appropriate. Because unity of command is actually going to bring people together and ensure synergy. That is one component. Because there are components of military, Assam Rifles, CRPF, BSF, your local police also, the host of kinds of people. Second thing is that there has to be adequate, a comprehensive deployment. Comprehensive deployment, when I say, it has to be deployed in form of a grid, a counter-insurgency or counter-terrorist grid in layers, so that when people come, when they operate, they cannot escape. Third is that operations has to be based on intelligence, human intelligence and technical intelligence. And fourth one is that the judiciary mandate has to be provided to the armed forces people wherever it is not prevailing, meaning Armed Forces Special Power Act, wherever the operations have to be launched for recovery of the weapons, the looted weapons or otherwise, there should be backed up by adequate provision so as to protect or insulate the army people who are operating there, because they are the ones who are devoid of these kind of provision. Last but not the least is that there has to be a long-term plan carried out to ensure that there is enough of infrastructure development, there is enough of education facilities, there is enough of the rehabilitation facilities. So one component we are addressing as of now is disarmament, but disarmament is not enough. So when you are doing disarming the people, there are, say, media is saying 6,000. My research indicates it's more than 8,000.
Right.
The big question with that, which is coming to my mind,
Yes,
is if weapons are being recovered, why should the armories be located in Manipur? They should be sent out. By keeping the armory in Manipur, you are providing a very
absolutely. And what we're seeing is a multifold approach, of course, being followed, RVS Mani, where, of course, this arms surrender is taking place. Meanwhile, also the border fence construction is happening at the India-Myanmar border. We're also seeing, of course, movement check between the hill areas to the valley, valley to hill. Also poppy cultivation is being destroyed. So obviously the drug money is being attempted to be targeted as well. So multifold approach, happening in Manipur, isn't it?
But now these are all early days. First thing is on the poppy cultivation. Let me be very clear about it. My information over the years is that poppy constitutes only 35% of the drug which is being trafficked in Manipur or northeastern state. More of it comes through the synthetic drugs like meta or something like that comes smuggled into these states through the Myanmar border. So that is a bigger malaise, and I'm sure the next stage they will take on this. So the 35% is not enough. The drugs, as long as the drugs in whatever form, not just part of the synthetics also come, the danger continues to be imminent. On the border fencing or the border management, I would put it, in the Indo-Pakistan border at several places, we had certain challenges, especially in the Kutch area and Harami Nala, as well as in the area. And certain, there were differences of government in the LOCs, on the Indian border side, not the LOC side, south of Pir Panjalan, land acquisition and all. We reinforced it with floodlighting in the borders so that the surveillance becomes easier. Thereafter, now, of course, technologies have come, even drone technology has come on. Those days it was not there. A comprehensive border management strategy evolved through experiences only. It is not that everybody had a wisdom cap and they started thinking, but a very comprehensive strategy evolved. So here also, if the terrain, of course, I know that the terrain is extremely challenging to complete the border, alternative methodologies, checkposts. The other day also I said, increase, if required, ask them to increase the checkposts, border outposts, etc., at a closer range, as Mr. General Sudhakaran pointed out. It has to be a gridlocked system so that not just human beings are drug trafficking, human trafficking, everything is put a stop, and no unauthorized, nothing contraband or unauthorized is able to enter the border, and that is one of the major things. Internal ethnic harmony will be worked through several methods. That can be left. But now our boys, our forces are fighting on the fighting a two-pronged action, one within the state, and one is the challenges on the border. and they have to be, as again General Sudhakaran pointed out, first backed up with a proper insulation legislation like the AFPSA and all that. I know it is political dynamite because Manipur has had its own repulsion with the AFPSA during the case of that Lakshmi, that Nefram Lakshmi and all that. But wherever it is required, unless and until you give the insulation cover to the security force, the legal cover to the security force, you cannot simply throw them to the wolves. So please, and tomorrow, I know, I have seen it in Kashmir, I have seen it in Naxal, even Naxal areas also, security forces have been hauled up for simply averting several attacks. In fact, in certain, an affidavit in Allahabad High Court, I have said so that the security forces are the biggest in Allahabad High Court in 2008. That whenever a security forces have this challenge, they are afraid of not being, because the human rights lobbies and all that, they come out and start for those days. They were much stronger. The media was anti-security forces. I think now they must have toned down. I do not know the present situation. Why I am saying that insulation is very, very vital. Your AFPSA is vital, Armed Forces Special. So similarly, the border controls have to be. So if fencing is not possible, you need to go alternate methodology, floodlight them, increase the number of outposts, have a gridlock situation on the border, so that contrabands and smugglings do not place, whether of the human rights or the any other contraband, including there are many undesirable things, not beyond just synthetic drugs, not beyond that. And on the interior side, yes, already some cookie volunteer groups have been opted in. We also had a very good experience of Nagaland, where these type of volunteer groups like the Naga mothers had all.
Okay, I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. Professor Madhav Nalapat also with us live. Let's quickly get a comment from him. Professor Nalapat, according to you, what now need to be the priorities? How much progress has been made? Is the other steps taken so far satisfactory according to you? And what more now needs to be done if we are to sustain this momentum? What should be the priorities of the action plan ahead?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say the action plan is very welcome. I'm glad it's being done. I'm glad that we are looking at fencing the border, because the reality is what is called the India-Myanmar border is, in practical terms, more the India-China border than the India-Myanmar border. The Chinese have amazing influence there, especially among armed groups. And if you don't have to look very far to find out where the weapons are coming from. And as for drugs, you don't have to look very far either. So I think I'm glad that this kind of activity is taking place, and it's very welcome. But I do agree that the most important point is harmony between the different communities, a feeling of different communities that they are, accommodated equally, and that there is no partiality by the administration to any one community. I'm quite certain that we have got that now under the Lieutenant Governor's rule, and I'm quite certain that that will be helping. So I just want to say that please don't forget that there was a coup against the elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi, and at that point in time, a lot of people crossed over, and because of humanitarian reasons, they were allowed to cross over. But the reality is, several of these people were indoctrinated, and they came to different parts of the state and frankly started working to create their own cells. So I think we need to be very, very cautious about the India-Myanmar border. It is, whatever our relations are with the Myanmar government, the fact is it's an unfriendly border. It's as unfriendly as the western border. So from all these points of view, Uday, I think what has happened is very welcome, and I think we should persevere. And I fully agree that the Armed Forces Special Powers Act should be extended across the length and breadth of the state, for a simple reason that I've seen this, long back in the Punjab police, the very Punjab police who basically, broke the back of the terror networks in Punjab. I mean, so many of them were hauled up by the courts. Some of them were punished. Many of them were cashiered. Many of them saw their careers destroyed. And I think it's a tragedy what happened to them, because all they did was patriotic service to the country. And they suffered very badly because of all these false cases against them. So I think that is absolutely essential. These hard decisions need to be taken, and I'm quite certain they will be taken. But it's a long road ahead. But that road has got to include two. One, you have to understand that the India-Myanmar border is a hostile border. And two, you have to understand very, very clearly the need for all communities in in zone to feel secure and to feel that the administration is treating them equally. I think these requisites are very important. Apart from, of course, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, I mean, the Armed Forces of India, an exemplary force, and they've been doing amazing work. And frankly, I'm happy to say that the level of corruption in the armed forces is very low, because in the past we had a problem. A few corrupt officials, not army officials, I may point out, they basically allowed so many things to happen for the sake of kickbacks. And I think that should be very, very carefully looked into and very strong action taken against the few officials who are involved in such rackets, and they need to be brought to book and prosecuted very, very severely. So it's a tough road ahead, but we've gone through tough roads before. In that area, as correctly said in Nagaland, in Kashmir, in Punjab in the past, we have gone through very tough roads and we have come through them successfully. I have no doubt that we will come through this as well. Thank you.
Yes, Lieutenant General Kohli, let me quickly bring you in here. According to you, of course, as far as this momentum is concerned, if we are to sustain it, then do you believe more additional troops deployment is also needed? Is that something that should be looked at apart from just the Assam Rifle regiments on ground? Also, of course, what are the other parameters of the security plan that should now be worked out as well? Because obviously the 7-day deadline will end soon. After that, there will be further action needed as well on those who have still not disarmed themselves.
Yeah, I'm sure those plans would have been worked out. Just 2-3 things I want to bring about in this. I'm sure they must be planning that their finances have to be right, internally as well as externally. Externally, once we are able to seal the border, once I say seal, it is not hermetically sealed. It is so long some kind of fencing and some kind of check post and domination we have there, so that the drugs and the illegal money cannot come from there. That is external. And internal only, they are getting money today, these trouble creators, through extortion. That also has to be checked. So one is that their finances should be checked. Second point, which they need to open, I'm sure they must be planning that these two highways which are coming there, one from Kohima and one from Ziribam, they need to be opened so that the movement of man and material can start and the basic necessities can come there in as far as Manipur is concerned comfortably. Thirdly, coming to the border part where we need additional forces. Why we will need additional there was because you cannot seal this. The creation of fencing, they are saying an entire 1600 kilometers which is there in Arunachal, Mizoram and Manipur will take about a decade. There is a kind of time plan which is being planned. We cannot afford to do that. So other technical means like what it was brought out some time back, it may be acoustic, magnetic, optical, drones, number of sensors are there, they get connected to the surveillance grids. We are doing it very successfully on our western border. And then they are, of course, they are manned. Then you have layers of our troops, which he was calling some time back grid. We'll have grid established so that this thing can be checked. So these are the two things. The third thing which is important is today, you see, like the cookies, they don't have faith in the police. They call Myanmar police as Methi police. And somehow this is also being said that it's a rumor only. I am sure it won't be correct that Assam Rifle is favorable to cookies. This is the kind of feeling they have. So their fears also need to be assuaged. Of course, we need the long-term solution for this. The development should be there in the hill areas. They don't have education, employment, medical facilities, and so on. But that will be later on. First, we need to disarm them and get them on the table. and then some kind of faith
Okay.
will come.
Point taken.
Once
I'm
they
out
know
of
that
time. 30 seconds to Major General Sudhakarji before I take a break.
Yeah, very quick points. Reconciliation group assumes paramount importance. It should be thought through. Composition of people who are well established, recognized in the country, and have bipartisan attitude to complex situations like this should be selected. Number two, there are foreign mercenaries around. We should be mindful that they could flow in from Bangladesh or from the Myanmar side. We should be mindful. Third, we should keep the ethnic groups segregated as much as possible by creating corridor or buffer zones. Fourth, we must have a long-term concept of equitable provision. When I say equitable provisions, what it means is whether, as per the composition of the population, we should look ahead. As per the constitution, people should get their rightful proportion of share of employment, land, or whatever livelihood requirements are required. Last but not the least, education being central should be focused on for a long-term
Okay. Point
perspective.
taken. We've run out of time. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us on this broadcast. It's time to slip into a very short break.